Well, look, I think what took place in the Wyoming election only unveils what's been taking place for quite some time in the Republican Party. And that is, look, President Trump may have exited the Oval Office in January of 2021, but he certainly has not exited the political stage, and his presence is still very strong and dominating in the Republican Party. We've seen that, of course, again in Wyoming, but also in key battleground states where he's been involved in the primary elections. For example, in Wisconsin, he entered that governor's race in the primary. His candidate, Tim Michels, won that race. But ultimately, right now, it is very clear that his approval rating has been on the rise in the Republican Party. The real question is, how does that translate into the midterm elections? And ultimately, what does that mean for 2024?
I guess my question is, what could change the trajectory of former President Trump's popularity if what you say is true, that he, retains this grip on the Republican Party via the grip he has on many American voters? What could change that?
Well, we'll see. I think what's interesting to note here is that despite the headlines, even the news surrounding Mar-a-Lago recently, the former president's standing only goes up in the party. Right now, again, his approval has been on the rise in the GOP. Politics and running for president or any office is about finding a lane. And right now, that lane of the anti-Trump movement in the party, that appears, at least right now, to be a very shrinking lane. We've seen that with regards to what happened in Wyoming. We're seeing it in other places as well for these congressional members who've been the opposite side, if you will, of the former president. Ultimately, time will tell on how this all plays out. But at least as things stand right now, whether it's 2022 midterm Republican candidates running with the Trump endorsement, or as we prepare for 2024 as well as a nation and look at that presidential election, again, the former president may have exited the Oval Office, but again, he's dominating in terms of the GOP base.
Matt, looking back at the last year, there are a few things that stand out as being as divisive and powerful a story as the Roe versus Wade developments in terms of energizing voters on both sides of the aisle. How do you see the Republican Party handling the fallout from this as we head into the midterms?
Well, we'll see. There's no question that this issue is very important to voters. And look, to your point, it's going to energize, particularly in these final weeks heading into Election Day, both sides of the political aisle. Many would argue it certainly has energized many in the Democrat Party who've been facing challenges within their party with regard to issues of inflation and skyrocketing gas prices. Ultimately, as we look at 2022, it's going to be a collective understanding of these issues. The candidates who can demonstrate they can't just lead on just one issue, but all these issues